All right, great. Okay, well, welcome. Welcome to Salesforce Admin Group, Portland, Oregon. Today is May 23rd, and we're going to go over screen flows. We're going to delight your users with screen flows, give a little presentation on how to use screen flows, when to use screen flows, why you might want to use screen flows, and how they can delight you and your users as well. So just a little quick presentation on this. I'll take questions at the end. But of course, questions at any point, please feel free to jump in either through the chat or through just jump off mute and speak up. Not ashamed, not afraid of it. Yeah, so let's get started here. Oops. Okay, so yeah, this is the Portland user group and co-led by myself and Allison, who's unable to make it today, unfortunately, but we are here as a resource for you. Please feel free to reach out to us through the community, via the community, or through the community to success.salesforce.org. Upcoming meetings, so not in 2 weeks or so, we're going to be doing another session. I don't yet know what the topic will be, but I've got some ideas, but I haven't solidified that yet. However, what is known is in July, July 10th, will be Forcelandia, and tickets, I believe, are now available. Was my last update. So please jump over to Forcelandia. It's in the Portland area. It's actually in Portland on the east side at the Kennedy School, and get your tickets now for that event. It's a great event. I highly recommend it. Okay. So Salesforce flows. So let's start at the very top, the high level 10,000-foot view. What is Salesforce flows? Yes, Salesforce flows is a declarative automation for us admins here in the Salesforce ecosystem. So you might have a lot of manual tasks that your users are doing. Salesforce flows is just a way for you to automate some of those tasks, some of those repetitive tasks using clicks and not code. So you point and click your way through this formally, or previously it was workflow rules and then process builder, and now flows has taken over the bulk of the automation, the declarative automation within Salesforce. So there's a whole lot of information on just flows in general, and we're going to be talking specifically about screen flows. But let's just kind of mention, what does that mean? Well, what other types of flows are there? What kind of types of automation can you actually create within Salesforce? There's really three types: a trigger flow, an auto launch flow, and a screen flow. So a trigger flow is really just something that happens. It's triggered by an action within the system. So if somebody saves a record and they save an account, they create an account record, and the account record has certain criteria, then a record triggered flow will execute and make updates that you've defined based on the other additional criteria. Auto launch flows are similar but different in that they don't actually have a trigger. They're just used in other places, so they're kind of called from other locations. Like you could execute a auto launch flow from an Apex code. You can execute it from another record trigger flow, or you can execute it from a screen flow as in the form of a subflow. So they're just pieces of code that you would build, or pieces of automation that you might build, and then you might plug those pieces into other automations within the system. And that's what you would do an auto launch flow. And then screen flows are specifically, let me see here, screen flows specifically are automations that require user input. So whereas before, like a record trigger flow might happen when a record is created or updated, this is actually going to be more of a form of a wizard, where you will walk a user through a series of a process series. You will get information from the user, and then the information that user gives to you in that flow, in that screen flow, you can actually make decisions based on that information, or do other items with that input. So I don't know if I explained that as correctly as I had in my head, but basically it's a wizard. It's something that you create as an admin to guide your users through a process, and at the end, you take that information that the user gave you, and you can create multiple records or multiple updates. You can perform updates on related records. You can create new records, all kinds of things just from that. And the real benefit that I found over the last few months here, specifically at my company, is that users, it really reduces the amount of validation rules that I have to create on my record. I'm actually going to walk a user through a process of, let's say, creating a request for a request for budget. You know, there's certain business criteria that a request for budget might have that might be required from the approver of a budget. Excuse me. So I can ask that information up front from the requester, make sure they meet certain criteria, maybe validate or revalidate or make additional changes to the request based on the information they give me. And then at the end of that process, I take all that information and then I can say, I'm going to send this to either this person, or this person, depending on what type of a request it is and what type of approval is needed, or maybe I can skip the approval altogether. So that's how ScreenFlows really can be really helpful. That's how I found them to be very helpful. They just take that process and they allow me to define the business process, put it into a series of screens, questions and answers, and then from that information, I can take that information and process it to the appropriate user without having to, without confusing a user or some other issue. Let me give you an example here. So I created this. This is not something I use, but it is an idea for what you might call a renewal. So let's just talk a second here about opportunities. Opportunities are, I used to work at a company that we'd have opportunities, we'd close a deal, and then we'd have to renew that contract every year or every 2 years would be renewal. And of course we had renewal opportunities as well. Well, I think I've told this story before, but what we would do is we had one person who would process the deals when they were closed, and then they would build this renewal opportunity at the time of the close, and they'd set the close date for the renewal opportunity a year out because it needs to be processed in a year. Well, they would do that all manually. So they would close out the deal, then they'd create a new record, then they'd open up the record here, open up the new record there, and be side by side, and then they'd copy and paste values here. They change the date from today to 1 year, the close date from today to 1 year. The start date would be a year out, things like that. It was very manual. Well, we found that the person who did that was just one person. The person would go on vacation, and they'd be gone for 2 weeks. They'd come back from vacation. A year later, all of these renewals are incorrect. The dates are wrong. The accounts were wrong. The setup, the way it was set up, was just not correct. And that was because they were gone during the time, and they had done this process in their head mechanically, almost. So what we did is we created a ScreenFlow that said, okay, you close the deal, and then we launch a ScreenFlow, and you now, what's the new close date? Is this the correct? It's 1 year out. Is that correct? Oh no, you can adjust it. Okay, this is the date. This is the amount. These are the dates. Okay, hit submit, and it actually went and created the renewal contract, our renewal opportunity, pulled all the data from the existing one project, which was in known values, and just created a record in the background for the renewal opportunity. So it was a really simple. The user only had to put in like 1 or 2 fields, or 1 or 2 items, dates and number and amounts. And then the system, we just kind of knew everything else about it. So we just built it in the background. So they didn't have to create a new record. They didn't have to worry about validating the validation rules. We validated them for it in the wizard. We made sure all the pieces were in the right spot. So saved them a lot of time, she didn't have to copy paste everything over. And then of course, going on vacation was a lot easier because she didn't have to worry about coming back to a bunch of records that were incorrect. And it made our sales team and our customer success team happy as well, because they were getting correct opportunity renewals built out on their behalf, and they just had to kind of close them as the day got closer. So that's just one example of kind of what we've done with our screen flows. Another example I have, so I'll walk you through in depth, is for our current users. How do they tell us that there's a bug or a problem with the system, that they've encountered an error of some kind? So we have in our Salesforce, we have a function called get help. It's just called get help. We don't have a use for cases outside of this functionality, so we leverage cases in our org for internal requests and internal problems. One of the nice things about a screen flow as well is that you can kind of trigger it from various different locations. So you can put a screen flow into a component on a Lightning page. You could wrap a screen flow into a button, so you could have like a new get help button. And you can also incorporate a screen flow into the bottom toolbar of the system, of the app. So the app has a toolbar at the bottom that you can put stuff into. And we put our screen flow for get help into that bottom space so that it's always available whenever the user needs to get to it. They click on the little button at the bottom and it pops up, creates a little window, and now they can put in what's not working or what's broken or what their request might be. So let me just walk you through kind of this screen flow real quick. Not real quick, let me walk you through the screen flow and show you how it helps me, how it helps us as the admin team process requests, but also how it makes things really easy for the user to just submit a case for their issue. So the first thing that we're able to actually do here is personalize the screen. So at the top of this screenshot here, you can see right above that blue box, we've said we put a little variable in there that says that pulls the username. We know what the user is. The system is telling us who's using this screen flow. So we go and we pull the user's name. We put hello person, hello friend. Looks like you're having trouble. Complete this wizard, and we'll get a ticket created for you on your behalf and start to process what's going on. And then the first field, or the only field on this particular screen, is what's the type of problem you have. And one of the things that you really want to do, and what makes this a benefit as well as screen flows, is you can actually leverage existing fields from objects. So in this case, we're using the pick list case type. And I don't have to build a case type variable within my screen flow. I just say, go get the case type field from cases and use those values in my screen flow. So if I add a value to case type in the system, it'll now show up in the screen flow as well, and I don't have to create it or edit it twice. So that's a real benefit. Screen flows also allow you to pull fields from records, from the specific records. To give a launch record, you can actually pull in a field from that record and display the value there as well. So this is what's helpful when you're talking about users. If they're making an adjustment to an account, you can say, well, here's the current value. What should the new value be? Or here's the current amount summed up. What should the additional amount be? Or things like that. So you can actually push and pull data or values on records in your screen flows as well. So a lot of flexibility here. Okay. So then on the next screen, on the second screen of this flow, depending on what type of case type they pick, what kind of problem they're having, we're going to present a series or a set of different questions or different text boxes that will allow them to explain what's happening. So there's really two, in this particular flow, there are two issues that we're worried about, two issues that have different requirements. If the user is requesting data export access, so we lock down our Salesforce, so we don't allow for data exports from reports, but certain users may need that, and they can request that. So if they're requesting data export access, on the second screen, we're going to show them they need to justify why they need that. So they have a little box there that says, what are you going to be doing with this information? Why do you need access to export data? We also can show information on that screen that says, you are requesting data export access. So therefore, the following things are going to happen. We need to go to your department head and get approval. You need to understand that these things, this is how data exporting is bad or good or whatever. But if they don't request that type of case, we don't need to show that information. If this was just a new case record screen, I would have to include all that information no matter what they were picking, right? Like I can't hide information based on what type of case they're selecting. But I can, in the screen flow, I can kind of drive that experience for the user and show them this, if that, or this, if that, over there. If X, then show this. If Y, then show that. So that's one of the things we're going to do here, is we can filter those things. The other thing I can do is I can make a certain of those fields, I can make those required in the screen flow, whereas I may not make them required, may not have them have to have them required in a record page, right? I can't have export reason required and description required, and only one of them is required because of the case type, right? That would require a validation rule, and I have to do some checking, and validation rules get messy. But in my screen flow, I can say I'm going to show this to you and it's required, or I'm going to show this to you and that's required instead. So that makes things a little bit easier. Michael, did you have a question or just popping out? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So interesting. What is the benefit of doing it this way as opposed to using the dynamic layouts where you can pop up and suppress things?
So in this particular one, my dynamic layouts is only going to appear it's only on a case record if there was cases. Here, I can actually launch this screen flow from anywhere I want within my system. So I could put it on another page. So if I wanted to put a get help option, we've had it on record pages, but I can also put it on as a button, or I can launch it from down in the toolbar. If it was just a record page, the dynamic record page, I have to go to cases. I have to create a case. I have to go to several places, then create my case, and then go through my case screen and hide certain things in a dynamic page. That somewhat help.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Lakshmi, your hand raised?
Yeah, can I just ask his question again?
Yes. Oh, what was his question?
Yeah.
His question was why would you do a screen flow like this versus just having a dynamic page where you can hide certain elements of a dynamic page?
Okay.
Why would you use screen flow instead?
Yeah. Can I just add one point and correct me if I was wrong? See, dynamic page or that will control the visibility, but it won't let the user input the information, right?
The dynamic page is dynamic lightning record pages will allow users to input data, but it's like a record page, so it's only visible when you go to it, versus a screen flow where I can put somewhere else and I can call from something.
Okay, so you mean to say while creating a new record, that dynamism will appear and it will control the visibility. That's what.
Yeah, if you created a new record, then you would have show hide capabilities in that particular record page.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. All right. And Christina was just saying in the chat here that she loves screen flows because you can add lots of color text to help guide the users perform lookups in the background and help pull records. That's exactly right. You can do a lot of explaining in text boxes, and when they make a decision or they make an input, you can go get records based on that information. You can trigger screen flows, excuse me, from an account. Let's say there's an account page. If you just trigger it from an account page, you can go say, okay, I'm on an account page. I know what my account is. Go find all these related records and display them or show them to the user and allow them to do things. You can do math on some of the results, things like that. So ScreenFlows, it's a guided wizard experience for the user, and that's really one of the key benefits of ScreenFlows is that you are creating an experience, creating a little mini application for the user to walk through. And for you as an admin, you can control the experience and make sure that you receive the proper data that you need in order to make a business process go forward. So, okay. So when the user in this particular scenario completes the case, they fill in the information. Now that's when I get to take over control here, right? I've received some information from the user, but now I need to go create my case record. And rather than running validation rules or hoping that the user puts in the correct information in a properly formatted way that we prefer it, I can actually define a lot of these things on my own. The user can put in the information that they need, and as well as I can have formulas to do other things and populate fields, or I can pull information from the system, the back end of the system, and populate that into fields as well. So if you look here at this particular screen, you see the red items or the items that the user would have entered. They could give me a case type, they could tell me a reason, or if they needed a different, I'm going to show them one or two fields. They're going to fill in the information for that reason. That's all they had to enter. What's my type? What's my problem? And then define the problem. As an admin, I go in there and I can define these other pieces here. So let me just double check. I can do. Let's pull it up so I can see it better. I'm going to go ahead and set my case origin. I'm going to set an object as unknown if I don't know it, and I'm going to set my status to new. I've created a formula that actually creates the subject for me so that it's all pre-formatted and consistent in my, because I have reporting requirements that I need as an administrator, and I have to report up the chain how many cases we've closed and what types of cases, things like that. So I can capture that information. And then the system knows who's the user, what time did it start, things like that. So I can populate these fields in my system just from the ScreenFlow knowing that information and not requiring the user to fill in all those pieces for me. Okay, so again, in this example, we have a case, and we also allow the user to say, I have screenshots. Like, here's my issue. I have some screenshots. I will populate them. I will upload them now. Well, we don't require that, right? You don't require to submit screenshots for your case. And in some instances, if you have your case type is X, there would be no screenshots. Like if you're asking for data access, there's no screenshot. But if you have another problem and you have a screenshot, you can do that. So then we have a decision here. We go through the decision and we actually associate those screenshots from the files upload into the case so that when I go to my case, I can see all the pieces. So that's another thing. You can make decisions based on the data that was input, and you can go do other stuff with that, based on that decision. Another example of that is in the scenario where you are requesting data access or data export access. Well, that requires a whole different business sub-process, and that sub-process is we actually have to go out to your department head and get permission from your department head. Well, some users have a department head defined, some users do not, because it's just the way that the system is right now. So if the user has a department head, we can go find out who that department head is in the system before we close out the creation of this case. If they have a department head, we're going to say, okay, go tell me who the department head is. And then we're going to send a chatter to that particular department head. We're going to mention the department head. We're going to tell them what the request is. We're going to tell them who's requesting it. and we're going to display the justification that the user put in for their request. All of that gets done right there in the chatter. If we don't know who the department head is, we have to go find the department head. And in that scenario, the system administrator or the business analyst has to go find out, okay, this is John Doe. John Doe is in this department, and the department head for that is this person. So they are actually assigned the task of finding the department head and then reaching out and getting approval for that particular user. So again, we're taking information, we're looking at the system, we're looking at the details, and we're able to make decisions of that based on that information to drive our business process. Now, we could have had a case record. The user could have put stuff in, could say, "Oh, we don't know who your department is. Who's your department head?" And it requires the user to know things or do things that they're just not thinking about at the time when this is happening, right? So the screen flows they're really helpful in guiding the user through the process and allowing you to make sure you have all the information you need to get your business process completed. This is I would call this a really simple case creation element that we've got here, but think about some of the more complex business processes that you have in your company that you could use to guide. If you guided your users through the process, it would make your life a lot easier, where you don't have to worry about validation rules, you don't have to worry about missing data, you don't have to worry about selecting the wrong type of record, let's say, stuff like that. That's really where these things come through and just make things a lot easier. Okay. So questions. So here's a little link. If you're not deeply involved in flows or ScreenFlow specifically, there's a trailhead that has a really good trailhead on flows in general, and part of that is ScreenFlows. So I'm going to open it up for questions now, and let's just see here. I've got some here that says, if you mean the measurement. Okay, so you're talking about there. That's good. Okay, questions. Anybody have questions?
Sure. So I've done a bunch of flows, but I just started working on my first screen flow. And basically, I'm trying to replace a quick action button with a screen flow. Because from the opportunity record, if you want to create a CPQ quote, we're currently using a quick action button so that they only have to enter in like 4 required fields. It's pretty simple. But the issue we're having is once you create the record, unlike with standard functionality, it doesn't open that created record. And it's certainly not allowing you to pop open the quote line editor. So I'm trying to create a screen flow that lets them collect those required fields and then open the created record. Have you done something like that before?
That is one more benefit of screen flows. Let me go back here. You can actually get leverage Apex in your screen flows and all your other flows. And if you go to unofficial Salesforce, they have a couple of packages that you can import into your system. That'll do some Apexy things. One of the things that I've got in mind here is this run case assignment. So this will actually run an assignment trigger when the case is created and determine who needs to get it. But also, there's another one of these little modules that'll actually take you to a screen. So you can input like your opportunity. It'll navigate you to a record. Yeah. So you don't want to input.
Is that called Navigate Anywhere? Is that the one you're referring to?
I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but they have a whole package of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, and I would recommend installing there's 3 big packages of ScreenFlow modules that you could leverage in your ScreenFlows, and one of them has the go to record. I think it's called go to record.
Okay.
Sally?
Yeah, no, just like in response to that question, it might not like 100% solve it, but if you're like in some places, you're like installing a package at some workplaces is like impossible because of the red tape. So if you have that kind of a scenario and you just want your user to at least be able to get like a link to the record that the ScreenFlow just created, you can always just add like a display page after the create records that just gives them the URL, and they can click on the URL on that pop-up. But or other things I've done is like emailed the user the URL that the ScreenFlow just created. But yeah, it doesn't. I don't know a way without, like Michael said, like installing some sort of a package to make it automatically pop up with the tools that we have. But you can have the URL pop up.
Yeah, you could also just display the URL if you're a real quick hack or use cases. Yeah, just here's the URL for your new record.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, you do it like on a display screen, like on a text screen or whatever.
Yeah, and that's one more thing that allows you to. Another nice thing about the ScreenFlows is when you think about Salesforce records, if you do a new record, you do create, and it just kind of creates the record, and it does it great. But when you go through a ScreenFlow as well, you can actually congratulate them on completing the process. You have completed the process. Here's what's going to happen next, or here's what to expect next. Those kinds of things. And you could say something along the lines of, here's a link to the record that you just created, or here's a way to update this record if you need to update this, or that. Yeah, success message. Definitely let them know it's completed. This has been done. Your part of the process is done. We're going to take it from here and do the next steps on your behalf. So always give a success message at the end of your ScreenFlows.
So in the flow, once you do the create record, how would you capture that URL or a link to it? And would you then create another screen element for displaying it after the creation?
Yeah, when you do a create, when you do a create and a create record, there's an option at the bottom of the create step that allows you to either save the ID of the record that you just created into a variable, or you can, if you were creating a line, let's just say you're creating a line item is tied to something else. If you wanted to take them to an opportunity, instead of taking them to a line item, well, you know what opportunity you kind of attached it to, you would have that ID. But if you needed just the ID of the line item created, then in your create screen, you could take that, save that ID as a variable, and then use that variable in the completion screen or those other later screens. Christina, any question?
I'm actually happy to share my screen because I have one up literally on my screen right now that we do the link with.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and stop sharing if you want to share.
I'm just going to figure out where the share. Oh, there it is. Screen share. And it's like, here we go. Entire. That one looks good. Share. I'll just drag this over. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my screen. You good on that? Okay, perfect.
Yes, we can.
So we use this ScreenFlow to help people enter a new account into our system because we find that there's a lot of things that they miss or maybe they don't understand. So we provide guidance along the way. And then right at the point where it's time to make the actual record, we've got all of their information saved from where they entered it earlier. So we go through, we make the record. Now, as you were mentioning earlier, you can save that ID number in a variable, but the most up-to-date version of the code, you don't actually have to do that anymore, because when you get down to say actually building your URL in here, let me pull this up. it actually allows you to use that element from earlier. So like here would be our link to the new prospect. If I click into this thing, you can, so we can actually pull it up. We pull it up via, I can zoom in, like a formula, so that we can build that link on the fly. And that formula, F new prospect link, it actually pulls it from the create prospect Inc. object. So we didn't even have to save it in a separate variable. It just pulls it up directly there from the object. Now, all this other stuff is a dynamic link. So it would be that dynamic link at the start of your URL there. That's how we build it in. And so we combine that together with the link or with the ID of the record. Also doing it this way, if you have an email that you want to send out to the user at the end of it, this will know what dynamic session you're in. So if you're building this in a sandbox environment, you want it to work when it gets into production, this link knows in what environment you're in. So we take that and we just display it on its own separate screen embedded in this display text field along with the URL link, if that makes sense.
Totally. No, that completely makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that we do, you can see that there's a screen right before this. We actually allow people to upload files to that newly created record because there's a package you can download for this called File Upload Improved. And this thing allows you to then say, I want you to take any files that get dumped in here and then automatically attach them to the newly created customer record from earlier. So same kind of deal. We're just going to take that file and add it to that URL. Where's my advanced? I forget where the setting is in here, but yeah, it's the same kind of deal because the new version, you don't have to dump it into a variable. It allows you to maybe put in one less assignment step in there.
Yeah, the new creates do if a record is created, then a variable is just held,
there.
or the ID is held inside that
Yeah,
that
it's just there.
Yeah.
Now there is this unofficial Salesforce package which we have not downloaded and tested yet, but we're definitely it's on our list of things that we want to get into and just kind of like see how it works, because that would be pretty cool that at the end of some flows to then navigate them straight there. Now, we probably won't end up doing it on this particular flow, and that's just because there's extra information that we provide to the user at the end, like what to expect, right? There's things that they might have to do, or they have to like wait for approval to be provided, because we immediately take this record that they've entered and then trigger the approval workflow right after this. So this thing goes into lock right after it gets saved because it's in that approval workflow. So we just want to give them information about what to expect before they then click into the actual record.
That's perfect. Yeah, and that is the one that you were showing earlier about the screen that navigates a record.
Yeah,
you're gonna love that if you just need to say, okay, you've created it, you're done. Let me take you to your record, because the last step is, I think it says finish or next, but it just takes you right into that, launches the record in the screen.
Yeah, we have like
great.
one or two where it would be nice to just dump them straight in. The other thing that we recently set up that we use ScreenFlow for is on cases. So there's a setting where you can prevent the closed status from appearing in the status field on a case, so people just can't move that case over to closed. And the reason we do that is because we want to force the user to enter resolution details. And so by not allowing them to select that thing manually, we push them into the flow. And I'll point out another really cool thing about flows is if you get them to download the side panel package from the Microsoft add-ins, you can take your ScreenFlows and actually run them in the side panel here. So for example, if it's like I want to log a communication to a case, this is all a ScreenFlow. So it pulls up cases that are owned by me. I can look for cases that are owned by other people, and then log stuff in here, or even close their cases, and I can do it from Outlook here. And then the other really cool thing about Outlook is, let's say that you have you've logged some type of communication or record or something like that. You can now take an email and then drag and drop it onto that file. Let me do like a little test here. Next.
I don't think
You can actually
Oh, you're
drag.
not sharing.
Oh, I'm not sharing anymore. I'm so sorry. Sorry. I stopped sharing. Forgot. Here we go. So let me bring up my Outlook. There we go. So back into Outlook. Hopefully you see it now. So I'm on the side panel and I want to log a communication, right? So this is what it started out like. When I log a communication, I don't own anything, but I can look for stuff owned by other people. And that way I can log communications to their stuff. I'm going to put it in as a subject of test. And when I get over to the guided work, that's what we call it, as guided work. I'm on the file upload now. I can actually take an email and literally just drag and dump it in there. And that's something you didn't used to be able to do, but now you can within a ScreenFlow. You can literally just grab an email straight out of Outlook. You don't have to dump it onto your desktop anymore. You can just dump it straight into that ScreenFlow and it just works.
Yeah, it's so much more powerful than it used to be. Lakshmi, you have a question?
No, it's not a question actually. Thanks, Christina, for sharing. I will go through this entire scenario again, but I just wanted to mention one more thing. Like the file upload component is available within the ScreenFlow components, right? I mean the flow components. Then why did you go for a package? That's one question to Christina. And I wanted to add this. I was volunteering with a not-for-profit, and where they want to have Web2Lead registration, or some registration form where they want to have the photo of the candidate who is going to register. So I started saying Web2Lead will be sufficient for this purpose. But when they said we want the photo to be uploaded, then we came to ScreenFlow, then put that flow on their community portal page and make it live, so that people who are registering on their website would be able to upload their photo. That's one experience I wanted to share actually. Yeah, that's the recent one.
So I think your question was, why do we have the package?
Yeah, why not the file upload component or upload file? I don't remember the name exactly, but there is a component existing within the.
Oh, yeah. So there were things that we could do with a file upload improved, like display the list of all the files that someone had uploaded. So if you just use the one that's out of the box from Salesforce, they can upload files in there, but it doesn't persist a list on the screen of everything that they have uploaded. It kind of goes into like, it's in there, but they can't see it. It's almost like a black hole where it's like, I know I've uploaded something, but I can't see that it actually worked. With the file upload improved, you upload something and then there on the screen, the name of the file persists. So the user knows that it actually worked. If you don't have that, what you could end up with is somebody trying to upload the same file like 3 times because they think it hasn't worked. So they just keep trying and then they give up. And then you end up with 3 of that same thing.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Makes sense. And yeah, necessity is the mother of invention. So if we have that requirement, we can find the ways to. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so thank you all for coming and for sharing, and everybody. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was useful. I hope this kind of whet the appetite for getting started with ScreenFlows and kind of the things that you can do with ScreenFlows. And start small. ScreenFlows can get overwhelming, especially if you start to you want to take a really big process and try to put it into something. Start small, and you can always expand on your ScreenFlows and all your other automations. So that's it. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next one. Please make sure you are signed up for the emails, and I will send this out as well with the links. All right, everybody.
Michael,
thank you very much. Yeah.
Just one question. Are you going to upload this session somewhere?
We're uploading the session video and the slide.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Sure thing. All right.
Yeah.